Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of the football betting series here on YouTube, Premier League edition. In what continues to be a difficult December, we did make a small loss. This month's record stands at 17 wins, 10 losses with 3 pushes, and we're looking down the barrel of minus £32.20. Adding that to our overall record for the series, we're looking at 90 wins, 38 losses and 17 pushes, and a total series profit of £464.71. The fixtures come thick and fast in December, so as we're looking at Boxing Day, I'm hoping to return at least back to an even keel in December, and if not, make some profit. I've got 4 picks in today's episode, so if you think I'm talking some sense, please drop a like down below and subscribe to the channel for more content. Without further ado, let's get into it. Our first pick today sees second place Chelsea playing host to 9th place Fulham. And Chelsea, they were held to a draw in their most recent game against Everton. Perhaps the 0-0 result was the correct one, as despite both sides creating at least 2 big chances, they did fail to generate more than a single expected goal, in what was a bit of an off day for Chelsea. In terms of form, this result brought an end to Chelsea's winning streak of 6 in a row, although they are still unbeaten in their last 9 matches. As with Chelsea before them, Fulham also found themselves sharing a goalless game in a match in which they were favourites. This match was contested at Craven Cottage against visiting Southampton. In terms of form though, whilst Fulham failed to pick up the win, they are unbeaten in their last 5 Premier League games. When we look at the head-to-head record, it was Chelsea that won the game last time around at Stamford Bridge by 1-0. Cole Palmer's penalty in the first half stoppage time was the difference between the two sides, in a game which, going off the stats, Chelsea did edge. That result did mean it's back-to-back wins for Chelsea over Fulham, and they are unbeaten in their last 3 meetings. But more impressively than that, they are also unbeaten in 25 of the last 26 encounters between these two sides. My prediction for today's game is that Chelsea will win. They may not be in the title race, but they have shown to be the kings of West London. Fulham aren't quite up to Chelsea's standard, and I think they're going to add another win onto their impressive run this season. Chelsea to win for a full stake in bet number 1. Our second selection sees 20th place Southampton playing host to 14th place West Ham. And Southampton, they drew their last game away against Fulham. The Saints were under the cosh for most of the game, and looking at the stats, they should have at least 1 goal, but they did manage to hold firm, pick up a clean sheet, but perhaps more importantly, a point in their hopes to stay up this season. In terms of form, this draw did stop a run of 3 losses on the bounce, although the Saints are winless in their last 7 Premier League games. They host a West Ham side who drew their last match against Brighton. The Irons fell behind early in the second half when Weaver scored for the visitors. This lead would not be held for long though, as Kudus did score 7 minutes later, and from there on, despite a lot of Brighton pressure in the second period, West Ham did manage to hold on to their point. In terms of form, this does mean that the Irons are now unbeaten in 3, and some of their early season pressure is starting to dissipate for Julian Lopetegui. In terms of the head-to-head records, the last match took place in April of 2023. West Ham took a 1-0 win thanks to Agard's goal early on, and despite the pressure being on the Saints to pull out a result in their hopes to avoid relegation, they only created 0.3 XG and couldn't beat man of the match Fabianski. That win for West Ham means we're looking at pretty mixed form between these two sides. 2 wins apiece and 2 draws in their last 6 competitive meetings. My prediction for today's game is that Southampton are really having a terrible season. The most optimistic Saints fan will really be hoping with the sacking of Russell Martin that they might be able to bounce back under the new stewardship of manager Ivan Juric, but in reality they're probably championship fodder. West Ham are putting together a nice run of form, and I do fancy them to pick up at least a point in this one. I don't 100% trust that West Ham will go on to win the game, as they are very inconsistent this year, but I am happy to cover 2 of the 3 results and lay Southampton for a full stake in bet number 2. Our third selection sees 18th place Wolverhampton Wanderers playing host to 13th place Manchester United, and Wolves absolutely felt the new manager bounce as they picked up a huge 3 points in their 3-0 win against Leicester City. Guedes, Gomez and Cunha all contributed for 3 big points in a result which may be a tad misleading. When we look at the numbers, Wolves did edge the game for sure, but Leicester brought a much more evenly contested game than the scoreline would suggest. In terms of form, Victor Pereira has handed Wolves fans an early Christmas present, as he has helped Wolves break their 4-game losing streak, and they can now go into the new year with a little bit of hope to escape the relegation zone, as they are just 2 points away from doing so. They play a Manchester United side who were battered by visiting Bournemouth 3-0. Dean Haljan opened the scoring with Cliver and Semyeno adding 2 more. United were perhaps a touch unlucky not to have scored themselves, as they actually did win out on every match winner predictor statistic. However, they lacked that clinical edge and did end up losing 3-0. In terms of form, that is now back-to-back losses for Manchester United across all competitions, and 3 losses in their last 4 in the Premier League for the Red Devils. When we look at the head-to-head record, last season's match was a real barnstormer of a game. Rashford and Højlund got the Red Devils off to a great start as they were 2-0 up by the half-time interval. Sarabia scored 1 back for Wolves, and everyone thought that Scott McTominay had scored the 3rd goal to kill off the game. However, Max Kilman added another goal to make it 3-2, and in the 95th minute, Pedro Neto, now of Chelsea, bagged the equaliser at the death to level the scores 3-3. But then there was more action. Kobbie Manu scored a 97th minute winner to see Manchester United win 4-3 in an absolutely mad game, where that result made it 4 wins in a row for Manchester United against Wolves and winning 7 of the last 8 matchups. My prediction for this game is that this is the type of match that Manchester United should be winning up against a side in the relegation zone that have, up until last match, looked pretty hopeless this season. However, in the light of Wolves losing both of their last 2 games at Molineux and Manchester United winning in Wolverhampton in each of the last 4 seasons, I am going to lean to Manchester United in this one, but only back them for a half stake here in bet number 3. Our 4th and final selection in today's game sees 10th place Brighton playing host to 12th place Brentford. And Brighton, they were held to a draw in their last game. After a goalless first half, Vifa handed Brighton the lead, but it did slip from their grasp shortly after with Kudus' equaliser. After the game was returned to a level footing, Brighton did have most of the play, but they simply couldn't find that second goal, with the match finishing 1-1. In terms of form, that is no win in 5 for the Seagulls now, with 3 draws thrown into this sample. They play a Brentford side who were beaten by Nottingham Forest in their last match. A rather drab affair was highlighted by Ola Anya and Anthony Elanga's strike either side of half-time. After being down 2-0, Brentford seized the initiative. They did take up 67% of the ball, but only took 3 shots in the second half, with just 1 effort on target. A poor performance from a struggling Brentford side for sure. And in terms of form, that does mean they're winless in their last 2 Premier League games and losing 4 of their last 5 matches across all competitions. When we look at the head-to-head record, last match was a goalless draw played out in London. This was a much better result for Brentford than the visiting Seagulls. It's hard to see how Brighton didn't score a goal in this match. They went out on basically every statistic with the exception of goals. They did force 6 saves from Mark Flecken in the Bees' net. Longer term, the form is a bit mixed. Of the last 6 meetings in the Premier League, Brighton have won 3 of these matches, and Brentford have picked up a single win with 2 draws thrown in there as well. Brentford have also failed to pick up a win in each of the last 3 meetings straight up. My prediction for this game, due in part to the head-to-head record, means I'm leaning towards Brighton here, but they do seem to have Brentford's number in recent meetings. Additionally, Brentford's away record will be of concern for them, as in their last 8 away games they have picked up just a single point on the road, and this was the 0-0 result against Everton. When it comes to travelling to the Amex, Brentford have lost twice and drawing the other match in the Premier League era. So for these reasons, I'm going to be laying the visitors here in the final bet of today's episode. So there we have it, 4 picks in today's episode, starting off with Chelsea versus Fulham. We're going to be back in the home side, odds of 1.49, a £40 stake to return £19.60. Next up, we have Southampton against West Ham. We're going to be laying the home side, odds of 1.35, a £40 full stake to return £14.30. The final game on Boxing Day, Wolves versus Manchester United. We're going to be backing the away side at odds of 1.72, a half stake of £20 to return £14.40. Wrapping up the episode on the 27th, we have Brighton versus Brentford. We're going to be laying Brentford, odds of 1.37, a £40 stake to return £14.81. So across the weekend, we're going to be risking £140 to hopefully pick up as much as £63.11. Will we do so? Well, there's only one way to find out. Let's tune into the next episode. But if you have made it to this point in the video, please drop a like down below and subscribe to the channel for more content. And as always, have yourself a lovely day.